Welcome to another episode of Swarajya Standpoint with me, Tushar Gupta. Today, the issue we are taking up is one that has been discussed immensely in the last few months, especially after what we saw in Madhya Pradesh after the exit of Scindia from the Congress party. Today, it is happening with Sachin Pilot, the former deputy chief minister of Rajasthan, rather. Now, no one knows if he'll be joining the BJP or not. There's still some press conferences which are due at this point. But one thing is for certain, the numbers that are being witnessed in Rajasthan, if we talk about the legislative assembly, they're not the same as they were in Madhya Pradesh. In Madhya Pradesh, it was a very razor-thin majority that the Congress enjoyed. Even after 3 wonderful terms of Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan, it was a very razor-thin majority that the Congress enjoyed in Madhya Pradesh. Therefore, the exit of Scindia on the occasion of Holi, when it happened earlier this year, which seems like a lifetime ago given the coronavirus and the time it has taken since then, the exit of Scindia meant that the government in Madhya Pradesh was toppled. Now, can that happen in Rajasthan, let's say, if Pilot has the number of MLAs he's claiming he has? Now, for one, Congress, with all the independents, with all its allies here and there, it has 124 legislative seats out of the 200, or they had so before Sachin Pilot made an exit. Now, for the anti-defect law not to take place, 2/3 of the MLAs from the Congress had to walk out. Clearly, Sachin Pilot does not have those numbers. He says he has 30 MLAs. Ashok Gehlot claims that he's got signature of 109 MLAs of the 124 that were originally a part of the Rajasthan government. So while the Gehlot camp claims that it's just having 15 MLAs on the run with Pilot, Sachin Pilot claims that he has the support of at least 30 MLAs, which also includes him. Now, the magic number has to be somewhere here, but it won't be enough to topple the government for one simple reason. The majority in Rajasthan is not razor thin. The BJP, if they're fishing in troubled waters, as they might be looking for more MLAs to come on their side, they'll need more MLAs to exit the Congress to follow the momentum of Sachin Pilot if the government is to be toppled. But that's a question left best for the future, because you don't know if Sachin Pilot will be joining the BJP, if he'll be forming his own party, or how the dynamics would really work out. But for now, the government in the Rajasthan, that under the Gehlot camp, is far more safer than it was under, let's say, Kamal Nath. So the first elephant has been addressed. But that is not the issue today. The issue is not of Sachin Pilot's exit, of which we'll be talking about in the future episodes, given it's a very high-profile exit. But it's that of the Congress party as a whole, the Indian National Congress. Now, if you go back before 2019, before the elections happened, there was this one image of Rahul Gandhi with Sachin Pilot and Jyotiraditya Scindia on his side. That used to be a very inspiring image for the youth of the Congress, the youth that looked up to the Congress as an alternate party to the BJP, especially during those times of manufactured intolerance. They saw the likes of Scindia, the likes of Pilot, led by Rahul Gandhi as the future. But now that image is no longer there. Scindia exited earlier this year. Pilot is gone. So it's as if taking the 2 best friends Rahul Gandhi had in his political career away from him, and they have gone due to his fault. So the question is, why is there a run of talent from the Congress party? And 2, is the dynasty, is the family of Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, Priyanka Gandhi, Vadra and Robert Vadra, are these 4 left alone now? And if they are, what are the consequences for that of the party? Now, we'll be looking at a lot of aspects in this regard, because the question here is about the dynasty being left alone and the cost of it to the Indian National Congress. Now, Indian National Congress, even though it has been reduced to 52 seats in the parliament for a party which ruled for 10 years, even with its allies from 2004 to 2014, first being reduced to 44 seats and then coming to 52. Even then, they have this impression, they have this image of being the national party. But today, that image is getting dimmer and dimmer. It's not there anymore. It's the fog around that image of the Gandhi family. It's making people difficult. It's making things difficult for people to see beyond the Gandhi family. And this is what we're going to talk about. The first aspect I'm going to take up is the problem with Rahul Gandhi. This has to be discussed. Now, Rahul Gandhi, if you like it or you do not like it, he's the face of the International Congress. He might say that I resigned after the debacle in the 2019 elections. But even today, for most people, for all the voters, even in the younger generation, especially in the younger generation, he remains the face of the party more than Sonia Gandhi herself. Now, the problem with Rahul Gandhi, firstly, is not just losing elections on the trot. He lost 2014. He lost 2019. While you could have attributed 2014 to the Modi wave, you could have said that the government was in power for 10 years, so probably the people wanted an alternate government to come on. But the way he's been losing, the leadership, the questions which have been raised on his leadership, on his interest in politics, they are something that can no longer be ignored. Take this for example. Before this whole pilot fiasco came into light, Rahul Gandhi was set to introduce his new video series today, which was he going to decipher news outside WhatsApp, or what he thought was hate circulated messages on WhatsApp. So Rahul Gandhi, he first started with TV interviews. They didn't work out, as we saw in 2014, as we saw recently during the 2019 elections. Then, as the coronavirus appeared, he started with interviews firstly with Raghuram Rajan that did not have any significant ideas. He then did one with Abhijit Banerjee again, which was not having any significant ideas. The disinterest for far more visible. After flunking on all those fronts, after flunking to create an anti-BJP narrative, he now has decided to take up a video series where he'll himself convey the news to his audience. But this demonstrates that Rahul Gandhi has been failing again and again. And it's not just about the talent, the political capital that he may carry. He just seems disinterested. Just a few days ago on Swarajya Direct Line, we did an episode on the absence of Rahul Gandhi from the meetings of the Defense Committee, 11 of them. Now, Rahul Gandhi has been vocal about issues when it comes to China, especially after what we saw in the Ladakh sector. He's been very vocal about Article 370 in Kashmir. All these matters, they're very concerned with defense. They're very relevant to defense. And Rahul Gandhi, he was a member of the Defense Committee, the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Defense. He was absent from that. Now, this shows lack of intent. And that lack of intent is then visible in his working as the Congress party leader. That's the first problem. The second problem, the state and the central leadership are not together. Take this for example. Congress in 2019 or in 2018, let's go back to 2018 December, not a lot of time ago. 2018 December, Congress win 3 states. They win Madhya Pradesh, they win Rajasthan, they win Chhattisgarh. Just 4 months later, you have the national elections, and people are hoping to see a Congress come back. Some are not projecting for them to go from 44 to, let's say, 300, but people are expecting for them to go from 44 to, say, 200 and make a dent in the prospects of the BJP. What happens? The same people who voted for the Congress party in December 2018 do not come out to vote for Rahul Gandhi in 2019, when he is more or less the face, the prime ministerial face by the Congress. Here's some interesting numbers I have on that front. Let's start with Rajasthan. In Rajasthan, during 2019, Rahul Gandhi had rallies across 10 constituencies. BJP won all 10 of them. Now, imagine, 4 months ago, you win a state, you go there before 2019, do 10 rallies, you lose all 10 of those constituencies. The story was same in the overall seats. Instead, when in Rajasthan, there were 25 seats that we contested. Congress scored a duck. After winning the state elections just 4 months ago, they scored a duck. So there's this impression that people who voted for the Congress in the state elections just 4 months ago, they did not want to vote for Rahul Gandhi. The story is same in Madhya Pradesh. He campaigned across 16 seats in 2019, lost all those 16 seats to BJP. That's a strike rate of zero, of nada. That's a huge problem, that the state and the central leadership are not going together. The perception of the state and the central leadership is not the same. And this makes the Rahul Gandhi, the dynasty, completely a liability on the party. We can also talk about the Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, and now the current Rajasthan debacle. That's the third point. Now, what is happening in Rajasthan, or what may happen in Rajasthan, is not something of a first timer. We saw that in Madhya Pradesh. We saw that in Karnataka. And what happened in Karnataka and Madhya Pradesh wasn't something that was unprecedented or something immediate which the Congress could not see coming. The problems with Scindia, the problems between Scindia and Kamal Nath, they were long coming. Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi did nothing to arrest those developments. They did nothing to pacify those problems within the Congress party. Instead, Rahul Gandhi was very cheeky to put out a quote, especially in 2018 when there was this decision to be taken between who to be the CM, Scindia or Kamal Nath, and Pilot and Gehlot. So he put out this tweet that time and patience epitomes of strength and something on those lines, just to signify that Scindia was okay with waiting. He put out a similar tweet for Pilot, but turns out they both were not. For one, Pilot had worked hard on the ground from 2014, during which the Rajasthan lost the state elections, to 2018. It got them back into the game. Even though Gehlot many will say is far more popular, is a far bigger leader than Sachin Pilot is right now. But Sachin Pilot's work cannot be negated in bringing Congress back to Rajasthan, even though Rajasthan is a swing state. It votes for BJP, it votes for Congress. But then Sachin Pilot's work could not have been ignored, but the Gandhi family that did that, and this is another failure of Rahul Gandhi. The one thing which has further alienated voters from the idea of Rahul Gandhi as the future prime minister, even, or as a future leader, is his regular anti-India stand. Now, we had an all-party meeting just very recently. The prime minister had called one. Sonia Gandhi herself was present in the capacity of the Congress president. Now, they have been taking stands which are mostly anti-India. Go back to 2019, recall their prospectus. They wanted to have the sustainability of Article 370 in Kashmir. They wanted to have more minority rights in Kashmir and things like that. So their stands have always been anti-India. I won't call it anti-BJP even. What they have been propagating is more or less anti-India. We could see their aggression against the CAA, even with all its noble intentions. The same was seen with Article 370, and the same was seen very recently with the China crisis, even though they did not speak in support of China. But that anti-India sentiment was very much visible. And this is the first problem with Rahul Gandhi. Now, if we talk about Rahul Gandhi as a leader alone, I spoke about the Rajasthan and the Madhya Pradesh fiasco. I'll go back to 2019. He campaigned across 105 constituencies and UPA won just 14 of those. Only 14 of those seats were won by the Congress party. The UPA won 16. So 105 rallies Rahul Gandhi is going to. He wins only 16. What does it indicate? That there is a problem of connect with the audience. And we've seen that. We've seen that in ample viral videos, that the problem of connect is there when it comes to Rahul Gandhi. It's the same thing that makes Narendra Modi look good within a crowd, or Amit Shah for that matter, or even some junior leaders in the BJP, say Anurag Thakur. Rahul Gandhi lacks that connect with the audience, and this is posing a problem for him. Now, coming back to the second factor, which is making problems worse for the dynasty with each passing day, is the Modi versus Gandhi factor. Now, even the journalists closest to the Gandhi family, what they said after 2019 election results, that each time you have a Rahul Gandhi versus Narendra Modi competition, Rahul Gandhi is going to lose. Now, let's dig in some numbers here. Rahul Gandhi's strike rate across the campaign during 2019, across 60 constituencies, he won just one out of it. If you look at the Hindi heartland, he campaigned across 60 constituencies. Congress won just one of those. And these are constituencies where the idea of Nyaya was propagated, that every month we'll be giving you 6,000 rupees to your family as a part of the universal basic income. The Nyaya program, which was spoken about with great pomp and show. And even then, 60 constituencies in the Hindi heartland, Rahul Gandhi wins one. Which one does he win? Raebareli, which has been a safe seat for Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, the Congress president. But the interesting thing was, even in Raebareli, the vote share of the Congress party came down. Of course, Rahul Gandhi lost Amethi to Mrs. Smriti Irani, which was a huge, huge political defeat. The second number is, in the Hindi heartland, of the total 225 seats, Congress just won 6 of them. Now, this brings up the idea of the second most important person in the dynasty, or the future of the dynasty, Priyanka Gandhi Vadra. Before 2019, Priyanka Gandhi made this big entrance in the political spectrum, saying that she was going to be the leader of UP, the future leader of UP. Even now, she is now retiring from Delhi, going back to UP to prepare for 2022 elections. What happened in 2019? 225 constituencies in the Hindi heartland. Congress won 6, a strike rate of 2.66%. Just 2.66%. Where is the connect? Where is the Modi versus Gandhi factor? This is not a political competition. This is political carnage. The third number, East India. The 24 seats he campaigned on, he had a strike rate of 0. No seat was won in East India. So even the Northeast connect is missing for Rahul Gandhi, an area where BJP has championed itself in recent years, especially after the ascent in 2014. Modi strike rate against Rahul Gandhi is 79.4% in 2019 to 1.66%. So if we talk about the campaigning across constituencies, whereas Modi's strike rate was 79.4% or 79%, rounding it off, Rahul Gandhi was at 2%. Now, where is this the competition? The dynasty doesn't seem to accept that Modi and Gandhi are no longer a competition. The third factor, the third problematic factor is the family ownership. There's little doubt that the Congress party revolves around four people, namely the Gandhi family. Now, the first problem is that when the seats they won in 2019 increased by a meager 8, people were quick to credit Sonia Gandhi for the little victory they had, the moral victory as some call it, that 44 to 52 seats, it's the well-doing of the Congress party, whereas it was the work of Amarinder Singh in Punjab. The anti-India interests of the party have been prevalent on numerous issues. In fact, the way Sonia Gandhi went about in her all-party meeting, that was seen by everyone on national television. And that is making problems worse for the Congress party, which revolves around the Gandhi family. Resistance to any criticism. Now, Sanjay Jha, to give you an example, of all people, has been one person who has defended Congress day and night through its worst times. We've seen him defending Rahul Gandhi on national television on matters Rahul Gandhi himself wouldn't want to defend. And when Sanjay Jha wrote a column criticizing the ways of the Congress party, his position as the spokesman of the party was taken away. To give you just one example, we saw similar things happening with Scindia. We saw similar things happening with Pilot. Tomorrow it could be Milind Deora, Jitin Prasad from UP, anyone. The problem is the Gandhi family feels it's immune to criticism. It does not deserve any criticism from any level of the party. And this is making problems worse because the communication within the party suffers. Next point, the position exchange. Now, when in 2019, after the results of 2019, when Rahul Gandhi said that he wanted to resign, he wanted to take a back seat and let others take the party forward, everyone thought that that was a mature move, that Rahul Gandhi realized that politics was not for him. What did happen then? Sonia Gandhi became the Congress president. Now, it's been 1.5 years, even though it feels like a long time because of what all we've witnessed in between the elections. It's actually just a little more than 1 year. We've seen the CAA, the 370, the Ram Mandir judgment, the coronavirus outbreak, the economy tankering a bit because of all this. But it does seem a long time, but it's just been a year. And the Congress party failed to find an alternate leadership face. They couldn't go beyond Rahul Gandhi. Probably Priyanka Gandhi wasn't ready or isn't not that well known, but they want to come back to Rahul Gandhi. Just a few days ago, there was these media reports that there are several members in the Congress who want Rahul Gandhi back as Congress president. And this is when Haryana has been recently lost. Maharashtra, they have become a party where they're giving the support, in Rahul Gandhi's own words. They are supporting the government, but they have no say in the government. So this is the kind of leadership Congress itself is aspiring for, because it revolves around the family. The last factor is using legacy as a glue. Within the Gandhi family, the problem is that they use legacy as a glue. Google up, you'll find ample statements where Priyanka Gandhi claims, I am the granddaughter of Indira Gandhi. Now, when you inherit the legacy of Indira Gandhi, you inherit her problems too. You inherit the problems of Rajiv Gandhi too. You inherit the problems of the UPA 2 corruption era too. The problem with the Gandhi family, particularly with Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi, is that they never tried carving out an individual identity for themselves. Today, Scindia is known for holding a region within Madhya Pradesh. He has a stronghold. Pilot, with his Gujjar leadership, he has a certain aura around him. He has the support of at least 30 MLAs. Can Rahul Gandhi ever claim such leadership? He lost Amethi himself. He had to look for a safe option down in Kerala. So the two individuals who are supposedly the future of the party for the Congress, for a lot of people in the Congress, they never carved out an individual identity, a political identity for themselves. And this has led to them becoming a liability for the Congress, because the Congress cannot look beyond them and the Congress with them at the helm cannot look forward. So it's a very catch-22 situation that way for the Congress. Now, what are the consequences as we spoke about it? The talent is exiting the party. We've seen Scindia. We've seen Pilot. These are two big names to exit the party. One might say that Pilot doesn't have the number of MLAs right now. He's not that big a leader as Gehlot is. But then it needs to be acknowledged that Ashok Gehlot is in the dusk of his political career, while Sachin Pilot is in the dawn of his political career. The same case was with Scindia and Kamal Nath. So probably they could have treated these leaders well. They could have treated the likes of Scindia and Pilot better and projected them as the leaders around 2023 when the two states would have gone to state elections again, just ahead of the 2024 elections. The voters could have done with some energetic, youthful leadership. The Gandhis seem to have missed that trick altogether. The thrice bitten yet not shy formula is something one cannot really understand. It's happened in Karnataka, it's happened in Madhya Pradesh, it might happen in Rajasthan. And the Congress is yet not learning. The indecisiveness, which has been said even by the likes of Kapil Sibal on Twitter, that the leadership of the Congress, the four people, they're not very decisive. They're not very quick when it comes to taking the decisions, when it comes to issues like these. And that is one reason we saw the issue of Scindia not being resolved. We saw the issue of Pilot not being resolved. Lastly, there's the debate between the old guard and the new guard. Now, the old guard surrounded by Sonia Gandhi, they do not want the new guard to emerge. And this is the problem of the Congress party. They're not looking at the future. The next national elections are 4 years away. How many members of the old guard would be in a position to retain their seats or to fight back for their seats by then? And even then, the Congress, to unshackle from its previous image, which is reeking of corruption, which is reeking of scandals one after the other, they needed some fresh faces. They needed some youthful vigor to take them forward, even if it was with Rahul Gandhi. The Congress has let go of two of those very important faces in Scindia and Pilot, and more will follow. Of course, you've seen some members of the Congress party who have been very staunch supporters, the likes of Sanjay Jha, the likes of Kapil Sibal. They have distanced themselves. Even a lot of local leaders, they have now come out openly in support of the cancellation of Article 370. They supported the Ram Mandir verdict. They also came out in support of the CAA. So the Congress dynasty here, it finds itself isolated at the top. But the problem is the same isolation is also creating an isolation for the Congress when it comes to the voting spectrum. Rahul Gandhi can make all the tweets he wants on Twitter. He can make all the provocations he wants. But the problem is he's losing support on the ground. And there is nothing he, his mother or his sister or his brother-in-law are doing to arrest it. And this is going to be the problem. The dynasty will end up alone. And with them will be the ruins, the debris of the Congress party, of the Indian National Congress. And what does it mean for the future of all the leaders, not just on the state level, also on the ground level, also on the district level? That's one question everyone will be asking today as they watch the exit of Sachin Pilot from the Congress party. Thank you.